What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast, episode 225. I am your host, Ty Guy Ains, and I'm going to be taking over this week with my fellow friends here, Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Hogue. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Do you have a versus ready to go for the top row here, Mr. Ty Gaines?
Oh, damn. We may need to move Dan on top and switch us to the bottom.
He's just going to cover me.
Yeah.
That's where the thing's going to pop. No!
Yeah.
We weren't very well prepared.
That's right. It's just, that kind of still works. It's the versus.
Oh, my God. That was my dog.
Dan's dog is very excited for Bitcast today.
I was going to ask you if you had a murder room or something. That's your dogs?
That's one dog.
I thought somebody had a soundboard ready for Halloween.
And Hogue, please don't ask Dan about a murder room live on the air.
That's in the DMs, guys.
Okay, all right.
Well, good morning, everyone. We are live. We are here. As you can well see before you, if you're with us live, Mr. Ty Guy Travis is off in Canada, of all places, at a wedding, and he tried to join us today, but he's just unable due to events that he cannot control. So I'm taking over the more formal look today, and I plan to argue with Hogue on about 94%, I think is the right calculation of things that he says. So
sounds right.
It should be a good time.
Sounds right. I'm ready for it.
I think you're on mute, Hogue.
I shouldn't be on mute.
Yeah, he's good.
Are you
on mute?
I don't know. I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to keep moving on for the time being.
That's going to make our arguments very difficult.
Yeah, it's going to be really weird.
So let's that threw me all off. I apologize, guys. Hogue, how you been, man? What's been going on?
Well, I'm doing all right. October is a fun month for anybody running a business and otherwise trying to engage with the weather in Michigan at long periods of time. It's now overcast. It's now chilly, but my Michigan Wolverines are still undefeated. Take that, Sparty. And I'm pretty much in good spirits.
Yeah.
I don't think Aids can hear what I say.
He can't hear a word he's saying. This is crazy. It's his terrible.
All right. So now I think what's appropriate is that we discuss Ains, both his attire and demeanor, and whether or not he affords us any decent opinions with respect to video games, pop culture, sports, or otherwise. Dan, what are your major issues with Ains?
It's mostly his hair,
sure,
lack thereof. Yeah,
sure.
I mean, we've all, I kind of suffer from the same thing. But,
well, you pull it off better. I think we can all agree that.
I mean, yeah, I just don't do anything
with
it at all. Like, eventually he's going to hear what we're talking about. I'm just waiting for that. Yeah, I'm just going to watch that.
So, yeah. So this is why content creation is always so much fun, as someone like Hogue will tell you, is that things never go to plan.
That's the truth.
Yeah. So I have a Bluetooth headset, a good headset here that I was using, and it was fine. And then it disconnected and I couldn't hear you. So then I put that down. I went to the wires. As soon as I plugged the wire in, the Bluetooth reconnected to the other headset.
Sure, that makes sense.
I'm sorting through it here. I've turned Bluetooth off entirely. We're going to go wired because that's reliable. And
can you hear me then?
I can hear you guys now. Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. We were just, basically talking about how much we loved you, things we liked about you. You know how it is.
I'm sure that's exactly what was said. Perfect. So,
fortunately, I have a lot of experience of dealing with tech failure. So I have ways that I go into launching things, generally insulting the person whose tech has failed. So that is the way to go.
That's fair. Yeah, this is why I have the backup headset right here ready to go. So Travis is not here. He did write us a spiel in very Travis-y way that I'm going to read to you to let you know why he is not here. So please enjoy this. It fits him entirely. So he says, Bitcast viewers, I apologize for my absence. As the sole reason you all watch every week, I always try my best to attend, even under the most dire of circumstances. Unfortunately, this week I find myself in the unenviable position of being at a wedding in Canada, but will be returning to the glorious United States as soon as technology and engineering allow. This past week, I reviewed Ghostbusters, played some Sparks of Hope, Call of Duty, and more. Putting the finishing touches on my review of Sonic Frontiers, which I'll be able to discuss next week. Cool. I didn't know you were reviewing that. Ains, stop talking about Halo. Never. Dan, play some good games, you filthy casual. Unlikely to happen. Hogue, keep being the sole right-wing extremist member of Antifa. Eternally yours, Jester Travis Northam. Fair.
I mean, I find nothing wrong with any of that. That's, The
Travis flavor in the morning.
Yeah, little Travis. All right. I hope everyone in chat is doing well this morning. Sorry for the hiccups and the slow start here. But today we actually have quite a lot of games to talk about. It's that time of the year, tons of game releases. And we're actually, I think, playing kind of a good mix of things between the four of us or three of us today. But we're going to be talking about a lot of that, including, of course, Modern Warfare 2. I want to talk about a little game called Signalis that I posted about on Twitter earlier this week. Game called Entropy Center, which is coming out next week. We got Bayonetta 3 release, Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. There's a lot of games to talk about. We're also going to touch on our favorite Halloween games or favorite horror games. Dan probably be a little quiet for that one, but we'll talk about it anyway. And we have a couple pieces of news on other major games as well. So why don't we go ahead, guys? I'm going to hit this super chat really quick, this generous super chat we got right at the start of the show before we get to the games we're currently playing. So hit it, Dan.
Rob Frawley, second, the $20 super chat. Thank you very much. Regarding last show, we've gone through that already. Oh, how do you feel about some games targeting 40 FPS for performance mode? 40 is the middle point between 30 and 60 when comparing frame time, which is the metric that actually matters.
So I'm always in favor of anybody shooting for anything higher than what they otherwise could hit, as long as it's consistent. Consistency generally seems to be the most important thing, and that's even between the 30 and the 60 in that debate. I will say, as I understand it, 40 plays better on that frame timing concept if you've got a TV that can support 120 frames per second. And so we're way beyond my technical capacities here. But that's my understanding of the situation, and my TVs don't do that. Now, I will say, if you've got even a slight variation between 40, 50, somewhere in between 30 and 60, and you're unlocked, the variable refresh rates can help. I like all of those things, but anything that adds a level of smoothness to 30, I'm going to be in favor of. So generally speaking, if 40 works, and I presume 120 frames per second TVs are going to become kind of more of the norm, then I think that's only going to help going through the generations. But for me right now, I think I'm mostly stuck at either unlocked with a variable refresh or 30 frames per second, if that's what are the options that they give me. I didn't notice anything, for instance, on my non-120 megahertz TV for Ratchet & Clank, I think has a 40 frames per second support. And I didn't see any difference for what I experience. So I think it's great. More options for more people. Right now, my TVs don't have that magic power.
Yeah, I think someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they did a post update after launch for Horizon Forbidden West for the same as well. I believe anyway. And I know they're doing it for God of War, which we touched on last week for Ragnarok. I will say, and I think I said it last week, but I will say that playing Plague Tale in that setting, as I think Lucius and a few others in the chat said, like, the 40 FPS when you're playing it with variable refresh rate and you have that TV and hardware capable of that, it does feel closer to 60 than 30, which sounds weird numbers wise, like math. You look at the numbers, that doesn't seem right, but it does feel a lot smoother than you would expect a normal 30 FPS game to be. So I'm going to actually try Ragnarok in that mode because it's native 4K and then the 40. But I play games in performance mode because I want the 60 or higher if possible.
I can't think of a game when I haven't done that. Out of the two options for the last 2 years, I don't know that I picked 30 on any of them. I think I picked 30 on Cyberpunk when it first released on console because their 60 was a mess. Like, if it's just not locking in at all, that's worse. Swimmy is bad. But as a choice, I don't think I've picked 30 on anything. That's one of the reasons I react as strongly as I do, which is like, I don't care about your lens flares. I don't care about your ray traced windows. If give me the 60 and I will have a happier, better performance. So don't take that away. Or else I'm going to comment on it.
I'm actually really curious to see they're adding 120 FPS mode on Ragnarok. So I'm going to be doing some comparisons around how does that look compared to like the 4K 40 and the up-resed 4K 60. So at least that's all we want, I think, on the console side, right? Is give us options. Like,
that's all I want. Yeah, I said that when I was complaining about it. It's like, look, I get it. Screenshots. You guys want to play with the hottest tech. That's one of the reasons you're in the business. I get it. You go make your 30 frames per second version, but also just make sure, just like you were making a PC game, that I can roll it back to a 60 frames per second version.
Yep.
That's it.
Agreed. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you as always. All right. So guys, the big monster game of the year, whether, as we've joked before, whether you like it or not. It's just that's what it is Modern Warfare 2.
Oh, I thought this was gonna be an Elden Ring segment for a second here. I didn't know
Well,
why we
I
were going
mean,
back to that.
I'm happy to. Would you like me to?
We can bring that up in Halloween because I think it's got a Halloween vibe.
But Modern Warfare 2 is here. It is the early numbers on it are already absurd. If you didn't see, for example, that on the first day it broke all prior records of concurrent players on Steam for prior Call of Duties. In fact, it nearly doubled Modern Warfare 2019. It had nearly 300,000 concurrent on day one, and that number has only continued to go up. So the sales are going to be, I'm telling you right now, they're going to be astronomical. And then Warzone hits in a couple weeks, which I'm actually reviewing, and we'll be talking more about that in the future.
That's a second version of Warzone. That's like a full refresh.
Yeah, well, the whole Warzone 2, it's like Overwatch 2. It's like, why didn't we just evolve? You know, I don't, the 2's weird, but yeah, essentially the reason they did that is because it's like a reboot, to your point, of Warzone, in that it is, it's a new map, it's kind of new mechanics, and it's going to tie fully in with Modern Warfare 2 in the guns, the unlocks, the menus. It's a full kind of tie together. So
you go with the one that's super, super popular. I can't blame you for that, actually.
True. That's true. So Modern Warfare 2. Now, I haven't played campaign yet. As you guys know, I was traveling last week, super busy. I got home, work was ridiculous. And so really all I have played is the multiplayer. But as the kind of competitive MP guy, typically talking about it on this panel, I will say that I'm having a good time. Just to give you some context, I am not the biggest Call of Duty guy, so I buy it every 2 to 3 years. I typically like the Infinity Ward ones better. But I've played obviously thousands of hours of Call of Duty over my lifetime, because I've played them all since the beginning, to a degree, like I said. So it is the things I'm liking about it is, one, it has 120 FPS mode. There you go. So it's very smooth. The gameplay is very smooth and solid. I haven't had anything where like, I'm complaining about frame rate, or I'm complaining about hitches in the game. Nothing like that. Like, you can get into a game pretty quickly, and it's very fast and intense, just like the beta was. Kill times are very short. You have to be it's very twitchy, right? You have to be very fast on the trigger. But it has a lot of modes. It has something like 9 or 10 6v6 modes. Then it has ground war, it has invasion, has kind of big team modes as well that you can play. Obviously campaigns tied in there as well. There's just a lot to do, and there's a ton of unlocks. The whole gunsmith system is very deep. So there's a lot of different weaponry and attachments and camos. If you're one of those players that likes to play a multiplayer game and just continually feel like you're progressing towards something, even if it's generally meaningless, you just feel like you're getting unlocks, like that carrot on the stick type thing. Mm-hmm. This is a perfect example of what Call of Duty does well. The other thing I would say about it, if you're going in if you're a hardcore Call of Duty guy, I've seen a lot of the pro players, because some of the pro Halo players play Call of Duty, and I kind of listen to what they say, complain about the maps. Now, the interesting thing here is I think, in the minority, where Call of Duty maps typically annoy me. So if you know anything about Call of Duty map design, it's 3-lane design where you have kind of a square arena, and there's 3 paths through the map, left, right, center, right? And they design little pathways to do that. But the entire design methodology around it is to keep continuous engagement. So you can flip spawns back and forth. People are always running at each other, and they're always engaging, right? It keeps action very fast. The thing I don't like about that is it really limits the way you engage with other players on the map, because you have to go down these 3 lanes always. There's no other option, typically, in a lot of Call of Duty maps. In this game, some of the maps are like that. They're still very traditional 3-lane maps, but there's a little more variety in some of the layouts and engagements. Some of the maps are a little bigger. Some of the maps are a little more open with longer sight lines, and I like that. A lot of Call of Duty players don't, so that's going to be that's going to be a personal kind of preference thing. But I like it because I think it allows you to really kind of explore the sandbox a little more with snipers or DMRs. Or I say DMR. Halo always comes out. Battle rifles or marksman rifles, rather than just continually running at full speed with an SMG around every corner, which you can still do, of course. It's Call of Duty. So I don't know. I'm enjoying it. There have been a lot of issues. I'm sure people have seen on Twitter. So on the first night, tech connection wise. So like for instance, the first night, which they did put a patch in within a day, so credit to Infinity Ward. But when you were partied up with more than 2, so if you had 3 or 4 or anyone else, right, you would constantly get disconnected while trying to join a match. So you would either get dashboarded, and this is on all platforms, by the way, not one specific one. You would get dashboarded or you would get sent back to the lobby and you couldn't connect. So that was very frustrating on Friday night. They fixed that primarily yesterday, but there's still a lot of little issues. Like, for instance, sometimes your loadouts disappear. So you go to customize your gun and your equipment and stuff, and it's just not there. It defaults. You can't customize your operator or your emblem or your calling card or your kind of personal stuff. Like, it doesn't save. I've been the same guy with the same emblem since start. I can't change it. So there's little things like that have been annoyances, which are kind of surprising because Call of Duty is a yearly franchise and they share a lot of the same tech and kind of development, and you would figure that stuff would be smooth, but
Activision's had a weird couple years.
True, and they're evolving their engine, and there's different, there's 8 studios that worked on this across Warzone and Modern Warfare 2 and
I always love the credits on a Call of Duty game.
94 minutes long. So anyway, that's been my experience. Elu's in the chat. We were playing last night till late in the morning, which is why I'm tired this morning. And it's a lot of people playing it. Like I said, it's a very popular game. But if you enjoy Call of Duty, you enjoy the fast-paced run and gun, unlock stuff, shoot people quickly. This is going to be a huge game. Absolutely huge. Yeah.
Well, I have no doubt. Certainly the numbers that you just said, which I hadn't seen, are amazing. 300, yes. 400,000 concurrents, whatever.
It's huge.
I will say this, even on stuff that isn't important, emblems and things like that, I always do get a first impression of like whether it's broken or not when I play a game. And that sounds a little bit like it might cross the line for me of connection issues and emblems not working and loadouts gone, just to feel like it's not fully solid. And I'm sure they'll fix that very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's not anything I would hold against it for long, but I always hate that feeling of, oh, this feels like a jalopy that just came out and getting it done, even if the experience of playing it is good. Now I have to say, I don't love the kind of charnel arena that is Call of Duty, the TTK of 2 seconds and run out and maybe get somebody and then die and then die and then die and then hit somebody and then you're hit by a helicopter or whatever. It's not really my thing. I actually prefer, I know I get a lot of crap for this on my opinions on Halo Infinite. I prefer Halo. I prefer a longer time to kill.
You're a good man, Hogue. You're a good man.
It's just what I like better. I feel like it's a little bit, I don't know if it's really this, but it feels like it requires a little bit more skill to hold on somebody as they're bouncing around and things like that.
I already said you're a good man. You don't have to keep going. I mean,
yeah, no, this is just my preference. I'm not trying to gild the lily. Call of Duty is popular for a reason, and that's because it's big,
very
it's
true.
bombastic. It has things that you can engage with very quickly. I'm not going to be buying it. I mean, I'm bad for a panel like this one for what is undoubtedly going to be the highest selling game of the year, but I feel like Modern Warfare as a genre was covered for me from the original Modern Warfares, and I don't have a reason to go back.
Yeah, that's fair. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, aside from the campaign, which I would love to try out.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah,
and that would be it, because when I played it, I mean, this used to be my game when I did play multiplayer, and this is where I started out with Call of Duty 3, and then into Modern Warfare, and that was kind of my entry into the online gaming. Really, that wasn't like PC, like Unreal Tournament and stuff like that. But so it was great, and we had like a whole clan. We had the whole 9 yards, and it was super fun. I was a little bit younger; my reflexes were a little bit better. We used to play hardcore mode pretty much exclusively, and it was that was our stuff. And then the sweats came. I got.
What a perfect photo of it.
Everything else kind of, yeah, it's.
All right. So technical issues are going to be the name of the game
folks
today.
Don't want us to talk about anything on this podcast.
Dan, you're breaking up significantly.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Stop downloading Call of Duty right now, man. You got to pause that download.
Yeah, like I can see, like, okay, I don't know if you can hear me, but
Yes.
like your mouths are not matching up to your voices. I don't understand.
I can assure you that mine is in real life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in
Here,
fact,
let me do this
so-
real quick. I'm going to leave and then jump back in.
Sure.
How about
okay,
that?
no
All right.
worries.
do it.
I'll comment on what Dan said, which is one of the big conversations that came up. It was even trending in the gaming arena on Twitter this week was skill-based matchmaking. Because of Call of Duty. Now, this has been a conversation point for many years across competitive shooters. But, when a giant Call of Duty release comes out and has it, it becomes a focal point. And I know some big streamers were talking about it. So it even becomes a bigger conversation. But yes, Modern Warfare 2, like pretty much most competitive shooters, including Call of Duty for the past 15 plus years, uses skill-based matchmaking. So I won't go on a rant about that. I think the people who don't like skill-based matchmaking are odd. I think they just want to be put into games where they can dominate every game, and that's fun to them. But I mean, generally speaking, it makes sense. Generally speaking, it makes sense to try and pit similarly skilled players against one another. I mean, that's the goal of skill-based matchmaking. So, to Dan's point, it is competitive. It is competitive at your level pretty typically. And I also want to comment that there are some things missing that you would not expect from a Call of Duty launch, going back to what you said, Hogue, about kind of rushing out the door. And one of the things I really find about interesting about releases like Call of Duty, like the Maddens of the world, right? Those games that have to release every year because it's been mandated that that's what they're going to do, is that things get scrapped late because they can't have it completed for launch, right? So for instance, this game, and I see Joshua Ford in the chat talking about it, and Dan mentioned it too, which is hardcore. So I don't think hardcore is in the game right now, that I've seen anyway. If it is, you can tell me
I didn't
I'm wrong.
realize that.
Hardcore is not in the game.
Either.
There is no combat record. There's no stats. You can't see you can't see anything of what you've done in the game. There's no profile. Nothing about what you've played.
Did they kick you off to a website? Are they doing like a website thing? They don't have stats at all.
No, none. You can use I believe, and anyone feel free, like I said in the chat or listening to this, to comment and let me know if I'm wrong. But I was looking this up yesterday because Halo faced the same issue. I'm not picking on Call of Duty here. Now Halo has everything on Halo Waypoint. That's all been updated and stuff. But there are groups out there that connect their own APIs to some of these games and provide stats. So for instance, if you go to like Tracker GG, which is an app you can download, you can track your stats across a whole bunch of different competitive games, including Halo, Call of Duty, etc. But with strictly speaking, within the game, there's nothing. There's no combat record. You can't find any of it.
That's remarkable, honestly.
Yeah. There is no, there's little things like I've got a few friends who play Call of Duty religiously every year. This is their game. And I was playing with them yesterday and they're like, you can't even tune your reticles right now. For instance, you used to be able to pick your reticle shape and, and color and all. You can't do
like
none
in
of
the
that's
options,
in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
none of that's in there. So
they got the pizza out of the oven, but it's got no toppings. You got a pizza. You're ready to go. But yeah. I don't want to like overly emphasize like all of that stuff necessarily, because if the game works, the game works. But that's the kind of stuff that would definitely start to bug me, especially the stats. Like I'm not great at these games. They are the definitive reason why Twitch is called Twitch, Call of Duty, and I'm not good at them. But I like to see how I did the last 10 matches. I like to see if I could make those numbers move around and get better and practice. I like to see heat maps. That would bug me. I mean, I wasn't buying it anyway, so you didn't lose a sale or anything.
Gaming Forte, good to see you in the chat, man. He said it's coming with Season 1 in November, so it looks like they got this out. I think Season 1 they're starting in coordination with Warzone, like I said, so November 16th. So maybe when the Battle Pass goes live and Warzone goes live, maybe they're adding some of this other stuff. I don't know, but it's pretty
preseason.
Yeah, it's kind of pretty basic right now in terms of those features that you would expect. And it's funny because I was talking to I know Tyler Owens, who is a developer at Respawn, who I've talked to. He's also worked on Halo. He's pretty big on Twitter and the community in terms of multiplayer and talking about these things. But he was talking about, because some of us were saying how, we used to be able to get kind of every stat you could ever think of for the old Halos, Call of Duties, etc., especially online. And they would have heat maps of every map, right? And if you were kind of a detail nerd, which I am, you could dive into it. And a lot of that is sadly not there nowadays. And he basically was kind of pointing out, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but to the effect of like players generally don't understand how much more complex developing a cross-play shooter is today than it was even 5-10 years ago. Which is fine. And we've talked about that at length, right? Like, I don't think it's an excuse. I think it's just context to say that like there's so much to do when it comes to like developing a game for 6 platforms that is also cross-play and cross-progression and cross-save, that sadly these studios just haven't caught up with being able to do all of that while still providing all these other kind of niceties. So it's another conversation.
With Call of Duty, it's hard to imagine any functional game publisher putting more resources at it. Right. So my concern is like, if that's really true, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
That's scary because how many people work on Call of Duty?
Eight studios. Well, 11. I think it's 11 total.
I've always loved the Call of Duty like logos coming up. I've always enjoyed basically every Ubisoft game's logos coming up, which is like Ubisoft and then a selection of 11 cities from around the world that just come up over the course of 3 minutes. I love those. I'm glad that they're collaborating and having this kind of resources put into game. But if it's still like, well, we couldn't get enough behind it to actually have like a stat screen, I don't know. Reevaluate your premises.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think Nick said Call of Duty updates November 16th as well. So it looks like season 1 will kick off with Warzone and the Battle Pass, like we said. The only thing that last thing on Call of Duty is the one thing that annoys me, some others may like it, of course, is that apparently Warzone 2, unlike the first Warzone, well, not unlike the first Warzone, but typical battle royale, right, is it's you land, loot, and then fight and survive, right? Mm-hmm. So like all of your loot comes within the map. Whereas from what I'm understanding, a lot of the unlocks that you'll have for guns and weaponry and camos and all those other things will have a role in Warzone 2. So it's like I said, it's more of a full integration of kind of a profile-wide Call of Duty experience with Warzone 2.
I'm interested to see what they do.
Yeah. But I'm pumped for it. Warzone 2, honestly, like is going to be a huge thing for me. I'll probably put several hundred hours, if not more, into that.
It honestly wouldn't surprise me if there's more resources on Warzone than there are for Call of Duty proper at Activision.
Makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
Warzone makes a lot of money.
Too much.
So, yep. So anyway, that's Modern Warfare 2. I will speak more about the campaign when I actually have time to play it. I know that most people seem to really enjoy the campaign. IGN got crap for giving it a 6. You know how that
no. IGN didn't. I don't blame IGN. Except
I don't blame IGN either.
They contract out for these crazy reviewers, right? Now, every 6 that I've seen from IGN has just been ridiculous. We've got Ghostbusters, we've got Gotham Knights, we got Call of Duty's single player campaign. I'm obviously just kidding because our friend and comrade can't defend himself today.
Yeah.
I have no idea whether Call of Duty's campaign deserves a 6 or a 4 or an 8. But the IGN has been rolling 6s all month.
Yeah, a lot of games are okay. Just okay. So Mr. Travis's review of Ghostbusters Unleashed, I'll segue us here.
Yes.
Is up on IGN. He did give that a 6 as well.
And we can do that as the what are you playing? Because he convinced me to buy it with his 6 review.
Exactly. So this is why reading the full review is important. But Hogue, I'm going to let you touch on it because I have not played that game. So how?
Sure. Well, I'm a big Ghostbusters fan. So you got to put the tilt in. And Travis basically says, "Are you a big Ghostbusters fan? This is gonna be fine." Like he's got a paragraph that's like, "Do you just love firehouses and busting ghosts?" So I said, "I do, Travis. Talk to me more." So Travis is really good. He's an excellent reviewer. I don't anybody relay this to him when he comes back to the channel. Okay, I don't want him to know this was said about him while he busy burns his eyes out looking at mountains and wildlife up in the northern Canada area. So he says, if you like Ghostbusters, that's going to help. That makes sense. And then he further says, essentially, that you can have a great deal of fun with this until you get to like hour 20 or 15 or whatever he says. I am very unlikely to ever play this $40 Ghostbusters game to hour 15. That's just not how I roll. So I said, okay. Now we can take this into account. And he talks about how wonderful it is to actually cooperate and get these things done. And that it's got a lot of things to aim for, right? You were talking about Call of Duty. It's got a lot of ghost types. It's got a lot of different qualities that they can have. It's got a lot of tech and upgrades that you're constantly doing. So it's built to be something that has that kind of psychological drive, and it's a budget game, and it's Ghostbusters, and I've played it, and I have to say it's wonderful. I actually really like it. It's very short. I thought they'd be like 20-minute kind of fights, and they're actually more like 5 or 10. And you can play as the Ghostbusters, and they have the technology you'd expect. You have to use your proton packs, and you have to use your traps and things like that. But you can also play as the ghost. So it's an asymmetric game. It actually reminds me like a little bit of like an Evolve. If you remember Evolve, which I absolutely adored for the 5 seconds it was working with the number of people that it had. That's some of my happiest kind of collaborative gaming memories was Evolve. It's wild, but I had a couple of just wonderful games of that. Ghostbusters feels like it could get there. I am terrible as a ghost, which is very amusing to me because Travis goes out of his way in his article to say, well, ghosts are way overpowered. You can't lose as a ghost. I've never won. I've never won. I almost DM Travis and be like, bro, can you help me out? Because it's like, what? It's like, it's probably been balanced since Travis was playing. I mean, that's always an issue when you're talking about review copies, but I have thoroughly enjoyed it. It is quick. It is snappy. It's perfect for October. And it's relatively simple. I mean, I think one of the main criticisms Travis winds up having is like, yeah, you play 12 or 15 hours and like, that's it. It's Ghostbusters. That's what it is. But as a guy that has played basically 4 years of Dead by Daylight, this is a perfectly happy thing to add to it. Also, I downloaded Dead by Daylight and have been playing it because it's October, folks. So I really like it. I like it, but I don't know that 6 is wrong. Again, I think just in terms of our disposition, I tend to go a little higher than Travis. So maybe a 7 for me. But I think it's basically right, and it's budget, and it feels like Ghostbusters. It's very smooth on the Xbox Series X, and it's thoroughly enjoyable.
Very cool. Yeah, I haven't played it. I'm not a big asymmetrical fan of those games. They don't do it for me, but I've heard generally pretty good things about the game, and I've heard exactly what you said. I've heard other people echo, which is it pays good homage to the Ghostbusters IP
really
as a whole.
Fully invested in the IP, which is like one of my favorite things. If you're going to license something, you're paying them a cut of your profits. Use the darn thing, and it uses Ghostbusters to great effect. Okay.
So it's not an Aliens Colonial Marine situation.
It is not. It is not. No, it is a loving homage to Ghostbusters, and also maybe Ghostbusters the animated series. I mean, like it's got that feel to it as well.
The classic one.
The real Ghostbusters, I think is what it's called back in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
So it's got a little bit of that. I think anytime that you're going to make new ghosts, you kind of go into that because that affords you more creativity than just what was appearing in the movies. And you get some of that, but I love that. I love a 4v1 asymmetric game. I love Dead by Daylight. And Ghostbusters is fun, but you do have, but what do you call them, Dan? The sweats. You do have the occasional, like all 90 level Ghostbusters team and your little ghost. And they're like, what have you been doing, bro?
They capture you in 45 seconds.
You're just gone. You're like, oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So it is a little tricky to learn, and then it'll only get worse, which will only make the audience worse. And if you're interested in it at all, I recommend getting it now.
Fair enough. That's cool. I've heard good things. So that's good. So I want to talk about a little game called Signalis, which is a game by a small studio. I think it's Rose Studio. I'm going off of memory here. But it's a little indie game. It released this week. It is also released on Game Pass if you want to give it if you're a Game Pass subscriber and want to just give it a shot. It's a pixel game, so it's got kind of that old school, I say like PS1
Dan's
look
out.
to it.
He's
Dan's definitely out. Definitely. Because it's
convince me.
It's a PS1 looking pixel survival horror game in the vein of classic kind of Resident Evil.
I was gonna say like Alone in the Dark type thing. Okay.
Yeah, but it's top down 2D, so it's like
top down,
like isometric.
Okay.
So it's very kind of mysterious. I'm not super far. I want to say I maybe have 2.5 hours in it, something like that right now. But you basically land on this kind of center. It looks to be in the future, like you're in space on a planet or an asteroid or somewhere, and things have gone horribly wrong. Imagine Dead Space in 2D pixel.
All these
form.
labs are always having problems and things go horribly wrong. I want the video game. Hear me, developers. I want the game where everything is fine. You're just researching science, exploring the outer realms of knowledge of humanity, and everything's cool.
Yeah. Godspeed to you on that one. But it's interesting. It is very much a kind of you scroll room to room, and there's different rooms. You need different keys to get into different areas that you find. And, combat is very simple so far anyway, where it's kind of point and shoot, finish off the enemies. And then you're just kind of unlocking the mystery as you go. And every once in a while, I would say I've had 2 or 3 of them so far. You go into like a first person section for a second, or not a second, but a few minutes, where you kind of discover something new, and it gives you these weird kind of flashbacks. Think Returnal, where you get those flashbacks of kind of like exposition, and you're like, what is this? What is this tied to?
What in the world are you even seeing in Returnal?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like that, but again, pixel PS1 style. So it's just intriguing, right? It's something different. I want to see it. It's kind of latched onto me to say you want to see what this is leading towards.
That's good. You get that
cool
kind of moment of mystery and inciting event is good. What platforms?
I think it's on all, but it is on Game Pass. So if you just want to play it without
speaking my language, Ains.
Yeah, it's on Game Pass. I got a code for it a few days before launch to review, but I just, again, like I said, this week time wise has been ridiculous. So I'm still kind of playing through it, and I'll talk more about it next week once I either finish it or have more time in it. But I would just, if you like that type of game and you want something a little mysterious, a little different, a little Halloweeny, check it out.
Halloweeny.
I like it. I am now intrigued. You've piqued with a Q my interest.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes. Yeah,
so I will definitely check it out. Actually, just you describing it, kind of going into first person from time to time, reminded me of a game. Here you go, chat. Good luck on this one that I really, really loved back on the Dreamcast. I think it was called Enemy Zero. Does anybody remember Enemy Zero?
That sounds vaguely familiar.
That's from the old studio that did like the D games. If you remember.
Oh yeah,
D?
yeah.
Oh, D, I remember. Sure.
There you go, Dan. D is for Dan.
Yep, that's the only reason I remember it.
And Enemy Zero had you on a kind of science fiction setting, identifying. Spoilers.
It was a Saturn game.
Saturn. I wanted to say Saturn, but I wasn't willing to commit to anything being on the Saturn. So I played it on the Saturn, and it is just a wonderful, haunting kind of horror game. And the main trick is that the enemy is invisible, and you can only kind of see it with like an almost Aliens-esque radar thing as you try to avoid it walking through the halls. And it was wonderful, and it had some of like the saddest, like most profoundly existential moments that I can remember back in the day. So go see if you can run that somewhere, folks. Enemy Zero.
There you go. Yeah, 1996. It says here really quickly.
Topical and timely.
The designer Kenji Ino said, "I wanted to ask the question, why do human beings exist? That's why the game evolved into something with an enclosed space and invisible enemies, so that you were forced to think about your own existence."
It literally does, by the way. That sounds up its own butt, and it is, right?
It is.
But
way up there.
But I will say that it actually does present the question, like a game like Soma, which is easier to access now, about existence and concepts like that in a way that was, at least for young teenage me, very, very interesting. Also terrifying. They're invisible.
Yeah, that'd be weird. Anyway, the last thing I want to mention, at least on the list, unless you guys have something else, of course, is good old Bayonetta 3. So
yes, and so I will just remind me that I do have at least one more on the list. But yeah, let's talk about Bayonetta 3.
Okay, well, I don't have much to say other than obviously the whole. Is it Helena Taylor?
Helena Taylor.
Yeah, the whole debacle this week. So the game is out. It got rave reviews. It's nearly like a 90 Metacritic. So I'm not playing it. It's not my type of game, but I didn't know if you guys were playing it or wanted to talk about it at all.
Well, so I've covered it a lot in Virtual Legality.
Yeah.
And honestly, there was space to do a 4th video. And I was like, no, I'm ending it. It's a trilogy. We're not going to go for 4th. We're not going to Indiana Jones this thing. But it looks good. These kinds of action games always feel to me kind of trapped on the Switch hardware. And I know Nintendo paid for it. I get it, Nintendo. But I look at it and it's like, well, it's smooth. It looks fine. It's like, even when I watch it, it's like, oh man, do I wish that wasn't on Switch.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Nintendo. I'm not going to be buying it until it's on sale, which it will be at some point. But good for you for making something cool and for, trying to serve more audiences on your platform. Than just kind of cute Mario games, which I love. So I think it's great that people have those options. You could see it kind of its resolution dissolving like Xenoblade, even as you watch the clips of it. So
it's rough, man. I bought 3 copies and then donated them to her charities. I think that's what we were supposed to do. Right?
Yes, that's what she said, actually, and an extra check directly to Platinum.
Yes, that's what I did. So, I mean, I'm trying to stay on that train.
With Helena Taylor, you see what the effects of like a bad apple for rhetoric is, right? There's a point to be had that we can examine the value that people get in various jobs and roles and making the video games that we love. And then you have someone there that is clearly deceitful and passing half-truths and untruths in order to either make a point or self-aggrandize. And you can see how it poisons the well for that conversation. And I think that's a bummer because I think having more of those conversations is great. But I've covered her in videos. I've watched all her statements. I did an article on it, and it's like, nope, you ruined it. You ruined it for now. Yeah. We're gonna wait for the next window.
Yeah, it sucks because it sets back a lot of these actually important social, things that are going on. I mean, it's really kind of a bummer. I mean, we need evidence sometimes with it's hard to go out and just throw stuff out there. I mean, you're a lawyer, you know about evidence.
So people jump on it too much, right? I mean, that's why the first video exists. The first video doesn't have the Bloomberg article, doesn't have Jason talking, doesn't have anything. It just says there are way too many holes in these statements, and here they are. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Don't take it on faith. Let's see what happens, which is roughly half of virtual legality episodes as a genre is like, whoa, hold. What do we actually know? Exactly. And going from there. And it was unfortunate. I would never would have guessed it was like that far off of reality when I started. But it was, no. When you say this is an unacceptable amount and all I asked for was a fair wage, it's like, well, pause. If we're using numbers, we're using numbers. You can't just skip what you asked for. And so you go through that. It's clear that I would argue that I don't think she's deliberately being a terrible person. I think there's an emotionality attached to the role for her. I think that's what happened. And I get that as a human being, I'm sympathetic, but my God, did you poison the well?
Yeah, the approach was atrocious. And it's a shame because as RGH, I think, said in the chat is, there is an ongoing important conversation around compensation, for roles in video games and acting and whatever else it may be, right, in the space. As I think what I didn't realize, which actually this was brought up because of this ridiculous conversation, is some of the voice actors in Japanese studios or Japanese games, for whatever reason, there was a few examples given of paperwork and whatnot of some of the roles being paid wages, which just sound crazy low to me. So I think that's a very important conversation. But good Lord, the way she approached it and what she set out to do was just a mess. And then that makes the conversation harder then, right?
Of course.
Because then you've got people like they just kind of, you go from one end to complete disregarding it.
Well, the people that are bad actors in and of themselves who don't want to have the conversation at all now have an extra arrow in their quiver. You see that deployed on the internet. Oh, they're just lying whiners or whatever. You have the other problem, which is that the numbers on their own sound high for anybody that's on a factory line somewhere or bagging groceries, where you're talking about an hour and she says 250 isn't enough. I mean, so you're already having that conversation, which it might not be enough for this kind of art that makes as much money as it does or doesn't, depending on Bayonetta is, she says it's $450 million as a franchise. I was like, I'm going to need some receipts, because Bayonetta has always kind of been that TV show that's on the edge of cancellation because it's not really funding the studio terribly well. And then when you have good faith actors, IGN put up a whole article in the last 2 or 3 days about let's talk about voice acting. I'm like, no, read the room. I'm not interested in having this conversation right now. Right? It's like, because IGN says, well, this was a messy situation from Helena Taylor and Bayonetta, but let's talk about the specifics. It's like, nope, it's not the entry point I'm interested in.
Yeah,
and I don't know. Yeah, it's so I think she burned it for at least a little while. Now, what's interesting about that is that the union contracts, the schedules that they have set up, they end November 7th, I want to say. And so I don't know what's going to happen with respect to those. We might be looking at a voice actor strike again.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's well, there you go. Nothing more to really add on that. I think everyone's tired. To our point, right? I think everyone's tired.
I'm glad it's a great game. I sincerely am glad it's a great game. I wish it wasn't constrained by some of the tech.
Yes,
completely agree. Yeah, like I said, not even the type of game for me. But if I was going to play a hardcore kind of fast-paced action game, which those are reportedly, as I understand it, the last hardware I want to play it on is the Switch. Like,
yeah, that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah,
that is the absolute unfortunate part. But yeah, I mean, if you've played Devil May Cry, Bayonetta is Devil May Cry. Right. I mean, it's the same kind of game.
Yeah.
So yeah,
like Final Fantasy 16.
Apparently, we'll see. I don't. What is useful to me about next year, and I was reminded of this, is like I've got Ueden Chronicles, I've got the 2 Suikoden remasters. Those are probably, I got Octopath Traveler 2. If you had told me ever in my life that there would be a year where Final Fantasy is coming out and it's like 4th or 5th or 10th on JRPGs that I'd be interested in, I would not have believed you. But it's like, you guys can go and try to find that market. What I worry about for you, Square, is that you give me up and my market, and you don't gain Devil May Cry's market, because you're still freaking weird. You're still Final Fantasy. People watch that trailer and go, that's weird. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes for them. I wish them all the success in the world. It's probably not going to be with me evangelizing for what their game is.
Yeah.
Now, what I will evangelize for is the game I did want to mention, Ains, which is, as a filthy casual, I know Travis gave that appellation to Dan, but I will take it for this. I am really liking playing Marvel Snap.
Oh, good. So someone in the
talk
chat
about Snap. Have any of you played it?
No, but
I don't even know what it is. So.
It's on your phone. Download it right now.
No,
Dan.
No, absolutely not.
Download it right now, Dan.
Can't do it.
So we have, in all seriousness, someone, I think it was RJH in the chat, asked about it. We did have a review of Marvel Snap go up last week. Our reviewer is a huge Hearthstone fan, and he put a lot of time into Snap, and he really enjoyed it. So Hogue, you can obviously tell us yours. He gave it an 8.
I think it's an 8. Yeah, I think it is. Snap is real good, yo. That is my technical review. It's Hearthstone-esque, right? So what you're doing is you're collecting what look like little magazine covers, but they are characters in the Marvel universe as well as variants. And you have a deck of, I believe it's 12 cards, which is like nothing, very easy to put together. It's got those kind of mana costs in the corner, and then they have an attack power, and they do something special, most of them. Some of them are blank. And you put that deck together, and then you have what amounts to like 3 or 4 minute matches with another player. You got 3 locations. Player that wins 2 out of the 3 or all 3 wins the match, and you can have up to 4 people at any given spot. And as you go along, you're collecting bonuses to improve the visuals of your character. So they have 2 that I can see right now, which is it's got a standard card, and then it's got a card that frame breaks, so they come out at the edges, which is cool. And then on that 3rd upgrade, you have it turn 3D. And those are both visually cool, and that's also one of the major kind of metrics for how your progress is being evaluated. And that collector's stat, that collector's level, gets you more variants and more cards and more boosters and what have you. And you just play it. It's got dailies and weeklies and all the normal stuff. And it's got it's kind of got a battle pass. See, battle pass is interesting to me, kind of from a philosophical level. I don't consider it a true battle pass if it doesn't at the front end have like an XP bonus, like something that encourages you to buy in at the front. So it instead uses the model where it's like everything is normal. It's not holding back missions. You can do everything to gain that experience for that season pass. And then you can evaluate it at the end, whether you earned enough for the $10, right? So there's no reason to actually buy into it early. You can just evaluate the thing. And so I suspect it's going to make a lot of money. and I suspect it is going to be something that I can play for free, give or take. And it's great for what I like mobile to be, Dan, which is, that coach took a ridiculous timeout. What can I squeeze in this commercial break where they try to sell me car insurance? And I can play a game of Marvel Snap. I played like 10 during the Michigan game last night. And that is exactly what I'm looking for a mobile game to do. And so, I probably will spend some money on it for something that makes sense in the future. Nothing right now. Because I like it. It's flashy. So all of the cards that you use, it's just a card game, right? You're just putting cards in locations, but like the Ant-Man card shrinks as you touch it. The Cyclops card, as you hold it, fires off a red beam. All these various cards have these kinds of effects. And clearly a lot of money was spent on making it flashy. And that works, I think, for people. And I highly recommend it. 8 plus, depending on where they go with kind of supporting it and exactly how greedy they get with trying to monetize it. But right now, you can play as much as you want, and it's really not anything you need to spend money on.
Very cool. Yeah, I did not realize this, and I've said this before, and it's a gap for me is my knowledge of mobile games because I just don't play them.
Sure.
But Eric, who reviewed this for us, Game Positive, many of you know. He said Second Dinner, which is the development company who made this, it was founded by former Hearthstone game director Ben Brody, along with former Hearthstone executive producer Hamilton Chu. So the guys who formed the studio literally came from Blizzard and Hearthstone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a variant of a Hearthstone kind of approach. It's not that attack. It's location based. It's shorter, which is what really works. It's just like Snap is great. And then I forgot to tell you the Snap mechanic, which I absolutely love. So you're going up. So the collector's progress is great, but you've also got kind of seasonal progress too, which is ostensibly like your competitive rank. And so each of those is separated by what I think it's 10 points. And every game that you play of Marvel Snap is worth 1 point to start out with. It's worth 2 if you go all the way through all the rounds. So you're kind of betting before the final reveals, almost like Texas Hold'em, about whether or not you're going to get the 2. And that 1 point or that 2 points is what you go up or down on your ranking. So it really is a bet, and you can retreat at any time before that. You can opt out of the game for the lower number, and then at any time during the game, somebody can snap and effectively double that bet. So if you think in round 4 that things are going well, you can take the 1 point game to a 2 point game and now cost the other person 2 points to retreat if they don't retreat at that point in time when you snap. Or if you go through the whole game and you're at final reveals, you're like, let's show them, flip. Then it's for 4 points up or 4 points down. And so you have this kind of light betting mechanic, evaluation mechanic while you're playing. And that's enough. With the cards and the deck building and the snapping, like that's enough wheels of interest intellectually for me to play the game. You add on the flashiness, and it's just fantastic.
Very good. I'm looking at the review now. So in the review, we also have the development roadmap of what's coming that Eric provided. It is in PC early access is coming soon, so the game will be on PC eventually. Apparently, it's using the mobile UI at start. It's a smaller development.
I was going to say it doesn't need to be, so I don't know how that'll feel ultimately, dragging things.
Yeah, well, it says in development is a PC widescreen UI, so it sounds like on the roadmap they have a full proper PC version, and then in concept right now they're throwing around all kinds of stuff. So check that out. Basically, Eric says exactly what you said. Hogue, he said it's a very fun way to spend 2 to 3 minutes repeatedly through the day. Beautiful artwork, respect for source material. And he said the entire review was done without spending any money on the game. On top of playing some of the beta, he also completed all 20 levels of the Recruit Pass and achieved collection level 55. I don't know what that means.
Yes, I finished the Recruit Pass. I'm right about there, about 50.
Okay.
So we did about the same.
Okay. And he said that he did spend money. There is a welcome pack you can buy. He did that to support the developer.
You know that, yeah, that's the standard of like it's $3 and you get more of the premium than you should get and a card. You know, like it's that one that you see in Fortnite.
Sure. So yeah, he really enjoyed it. So that's good to hear. Funny enough, Sardonisms had a question for us for the panel regarding mobile games, but I said I was going to save it till next week because I figured it'd be good for all 4 of us to be here for that one. So, but very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I thoroughly recommend it, and it's not going to immediately dive into your pocket and ask for goods.
Yeah. Okay.
You lost me at mobile, and then card, and then any kind of monetization.
Dan, I swear to God, like if you could just close your eyes and plug your nose and just do it. Marvel Snap is fun.
I can't do it, man.
Google Man
The only
81
game
in
I
our
play
chat says
on
he's
my
playing
phone?
Snap right now. Snap is the perfect thing to play while you listen to us, boneheads.
Yeah. The only thing I've ever, I really don't play mobile games at all.
Sure.
So that's the biggest issue. Second,
I'm just saying when Iowa has the football, Dan, and you know nothing's going to come of it.
I could literally play the entire game with that. That's the problem. I just can't get into them. Like I feel like my gaming time can be better invested in a game that's like 4 years old. And if I'm going to throw money at something, it's going to be something like, Breakpoint or something stupid,
I'm just saying you can't play Breakpoint while you're watching football or otherwise ostensibly hanging out with your family.
Thing, really. So
let's also point out he said he's not going to throw money at it, but he still has Anthem currency he hasn't spent. So.
Okay, we got to spend there.
Yeah, I mean, I paid $10 I think this week for some stuff in Breakpoint. Why? Because that's all I got. You know what? Because I have so much money from my gaming fund because I haven't bought anything this year except for like Horizon and like I think one more.
You got your money's worth out of Horizon. You should get that money back in your gaming fund.
You would think.
You should be able to go and be like, honey, clearly I did okay with Horizon.
Yes.
400 hours.
It sounds like you need to expand your horizons.
No.
So with that, I will ask you, Dan, anything, so you've been playing Breakpoint, anything else you've been touching on?
No. The new Hitman stuff kind of released this week, the roadmap for Freelancer.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think there'd be like such a weird, like contentious, I mean, it actually like community, like especially on YouTube videos of people just
of Hitman content.
Yeah, talk to us about the behind the scenes here, because the description of Freelancer, as I understood it, was like it's a roguelike, which sounds good, that uses like some procedural stuff, which sounds good. Is there some consternation in the Hitman community on this?
I think when I read the comments on the main video, there's mostly, I would say 70 to 80% positive.
Okay.
Stuff. And then sometimes you get a video that just kind of pops on your timeline because of the content that you're watching. And I watched one video and kind of got into it with this YouTuber, he's not really much of a YouTuber. I mean, I don't even know his name.
I got into it with some guy.
Well, I mean, I basically just posted underneath it. I commented if hyperbole was a video, and that's basically what I put, because he came in and he's just like, I'm going to tell you why everything sucks about what we just watched on this.
That's like, YouTube, man.
I was like, what in the hell am I watching here? I was like, and like his arguments were like in the video, what?
You watched this video and commented on it. You did exactly what he wanted you to do.
It's exactly. Yeah. Listen, he's got like 200 subscribers. I wasn't really super worried about like any kind of interactions. So I mean,
a sad person
popped up on there, But he came on and he's like, hey, it says you have the safe house, right? Like the whole thing is, so you can come back and take a breather. And then he proceeds to say, here's what a breather looks like in Hitman, and he just kind of walks and stops, in the middle of a map somewhere. And then he's like, yeah, so we don't need to take a breather. I said, and I replied back, I was like, listen, that breather is for you to go out inside and touch grass, or get a snack or get some water. Stay hydrated.
You went and trolled this guy?
Isn't for your, yeah, that's what I said to the guy. But I mean, it's one of those things where you're just like, what is happening? Anyway, it looks amazing. It looks really, really good. We haven't got a ton of content, for the game. A lot of it's been kind of rehashed stuff. A lot of the suits are kind of just reskinned stuff. A lot of the weapons are reskinned weapons, so this is a whole new way to go. It's a whole new, I'm not generally a big fan of roguelike, but I like, what it looks like anyway, for now. I don't really care so much again about the safe house part of it. I mean, it looks kind of nice, just kind of a nice thing to have. They're monetizing some stuff, not where you have to go buy actual money, but they, it just looks really good. It's got some potential, and it's got potential to possibly extend the life of the game a little bit longer, which is what you really want to do. We may not get like tons of maps. We may not get a ton of, new areas to explore, but that's really, you can do a lot more with this game than I think that guy really kind of gave it credit for it. So I'm excited for it. It looks pretty cool. I'm trying to get into the technical test, even though I don't, own it on the PC and I'd have to play it on PC. So we'll see what happens there. It's a separate download from Hitman 3, so you don't have to actually own the game to get the
it's a separate app.
Test. Yeah, completely separate. Right. It is going to be free for everybody that owns Hitman 3 on all the consoles and PC stores that you decide to buy on. So I'm pretty pumped for that. But yeah, this week has been basically playing Breakpoint, which I'm going to just shout out one more time because they added so much stuff. Like I thought I said that last week. I didn't realize the amount of stuff that is in that game. There's you can change the entire map 3 different ways. And it's kind of hard to explain, but they have different operations. So you can have one operation, which is like Rainbow Six operators come in to the island with you, and the whole map goes over to that. There's another one that's like faction based, changes the whole map. You can't access any of the main missions. It becomes like a completely separate game. I just found that out this morning. So I mean, you've got 3 different kinds of main. You have the episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 main missions. The Terminator stuff, I knew about it. I didn't realize how much of it there was. So it's a lot of content, and for basically nothing. So
did they? I meant to ask you.
If you enjoy Breakpoint shoutouts, you're not going to find them anywhere else on the
internet.
Like and subscribe to Dan specifically.
Yes.
Yeah. And the Hitman guy with 200 subs. Get him too.
As a content creator, I was like, oh no, Dan's coming in and hurling invective at this guy that has 200 subs.
I don't care.
He's just trying, man. He's just trying. Did they update that game for Series XS, PS5?
Yeah, it is 60 FPS. Yep. There's performance and resolution, so you can choose either one of them. It looks really good. I would argue it looks. Dan? Yeah, PS5.
All right.
It's again just because I don't have my Series X, but I had to buy it again. But I got it on sale for like $15, so it really wasn't that big of a deal.
I think Breakpoint's been on some sales, folks. Exciting to you.
I have sale like a week after release.
Yeah, I literally put it
$8.99 or something.
I bought the base game, and then I was like, I'll just highlight the season 1 pass, and if it comes out for sale at some point, like the next week, like this week earlier, it was like on sale for like $10 or something. It's like, oh, that's perfect. Pretty much got everything I need. But they.
Actually, I think, Dan, you're right. I think while I was going through the new November sale, which is a big one for PlayStation, if you guys are interested, I think Breakpoint's on there.
Yep.
Okay.
It's worth it for that much. It's a lot of content, which is my bag. I like to get the value for me. Obviously, that's going to be subjective and change for everybody else. But I can, I'm not even a quarter of the way done with this game. There's so much in there. So. That's great.
It's the old country buffet of video game shooting.
It is. It really is. It's about that level of quality too.
You can get a pre-owned copy of Breakpoint physical for $8.65.
Yes, you can.
There you go.
There you go.
Get it. Get it.
What was I going to say? No, I am not. But thank you for the recommendation.
Sure.
Not that I don't believe you what you're saying. It's just there are so many games right now. And the biggest stuff of the year is coming out for me in the next few weeks between Halo's update, Warzone 2, Ragnarok, and then Callisto Protocol. I've got plenty to do. That doesn't even count all the other kind of smaller games that are coming too this month. So,
yeah, right now on PlayStation Network, the Ultimate Edition with all add-ons is down from 120 to 30. If you're interested in spending $30 on Breakpoint.
Well, that's the Ultimate Edition's on sale. I should have waited a week.
Ultimate is 30. Deluxe is 17.
Oh, wow.
So if it's good now, you take Dan's word for it. The sales are hot on PlayStation Network right now.
Yeah. If you want to play a tactical-based third-person shooter that has so many options that it makes other games pale in comparison, that's average on story, and also has John Barenthal in it, this is the game for you.
I'm trying to remember the Breakpoint story. Isn't it like Evil Corporation has taken over Island? Drones?
Yes, Evil Corporation takes over Island, hires mercenaries to protect them. Mercenaries then take over Evil Corporation. And
all right. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you know what? We'll have to figure. We got to call Sony. We'll get some affiliate links.
Yeah. Also drones, lots of drones.
Drones, yes, this is what I remember. It's literally
Yeah.
drones. I remember drones. Okay,
That's the big thing. Yeah.
there you go. That was our breakpoint hour.
Yep.
There you go.
You're welcome, guys.
On Season Gaming Bitcast.
Stop the tapping. I hear that tapping. There you go, Dan.
Tap away, just shoot first.
Yeah. Banging on the desk. All right. Well, there you go. I've done it again. Even with only 3 of us, we've extended the currently playing to an hour. But I will say that the majority of our conversation is based around the games, this week rather than kind of news topics. So it is that time of the year where
it's fun. It's
Oh
fun.
yeah,
Come
absolutely.
on here to talk about fun stuff. I'm
Absolutely.
quitting.
I didn't even touch on Entropy Center. So Entropy Center is another kind of, it's an indie game, but I mean it's a kind of larger produced one that is coming out I think this week.
Center. What kind of game is that?
It's like Portal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Portal to me, I like Portal. That kind of game is very closely related to exactly how good their puzzle design is.
Yes, and I'm super early in it, but we do have someone else reviewing it for the site, so that review will be up this week. He basically said it's Portal, so we'll see how his review turns out. But yeah, that's coming out this week as well. It was one of those games that was shown at either Summer Game Fest or Xbox's showcase, one of the two.
Okay.
So that's coming out this week too. So why don't we touch on? I want to touch on kind of favorite Halloween games, seeing as though it's October 30th, day before Halloween.
I love this topic.
So I was kind of thinking about my favorite kind of horror. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we do that, we did get a super chat. So let me get that real quick.
Let's see if Dan remembers to unmute himself. He did.
I did. Yeah, running with scissors is not recommended. Google Man 81, thank you for the €5. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but
yeah, Google Man. I saw
generally good life advice.
Yeah, it is. It's generally good advice.
Isn't that a developer name?
I
think there's a developer named Running with Scissors.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of funny named developers, so I would bet that's out there. Google Man, thank you as always, Ben. Yeah, I don't know exactly what you're referencing. I saw when the super chat came in. If you don't feel like you have to super chat again, but you can type in the comments what you're referring to, because honestly, I don't know. But thank you, of course, for the super chat. Oh, Google Man said it's a game studio. Yes, there you go. Perfect. So, all right. Oh, it's the Postal Dev. Travis isn't here for that. We'll get him next week with that one. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. And anyway, back to Halloween games. So one of my favorites, which I still talk about, it is playable. I know on Series XS, which is kind of the backwards compatibility thing. Obviously PC. I don't know about PS5, but is Condemned. So Condemned is one of my favorite horror games of all time. I have it right here behind me, my original 360 copy. Which
Condemned, look at that.
I'm not sure the last time I picked that up. But 2005 launch game published.
It's a launch game, right?
It was. I want to say I bought 6 or 8 games at launch with my 360. And I did a midnight launch, and I at the time had a home theater with a projector and a 100-inch screen, which was cool. And my good buddy Jesse was with me, and we played from when we got home from the midnight launch all the way till about 1 p.m. the next afternoon. We just played a bunch of games, including this. But it was developed by Monolith, great studio, published by Sega. And I don't know how it holds up. I have not played Condemned in several years, so I don't know if it still holds up well, but highly recommend. If you've never played it, play Condemned. It's awesome.
It is spooky. It's more supernatural than you think.
It is, yeah, and part 2, there is a part 2. It kind of goes a little further down that route. I did not enjoy part 2 as much as 1, but there you go. So
that's a good choice, Ains. I like that.
Yeah. So what do you got? Give me one.
Oh, okay. I mean, I could have 100. I will tell you right now, this October, I thoroughly enjoy this. I've played it every October since it came out. Luigi's Mansion 3.
Great game.
It's an awesome Halloween game. It has exactly the right vibe. It has exactly that right music. It's Haunted Mansion from Disney, and it's wonderful. So I highly recommend Luigi's Mansion 3 for that. If you're looking for something a little bit scarier, you want to get into that kind of scares. My favorite recent last 10 years horror game for that is Soma. You heard me reference it before. I think Soma is better than all 3 Amnesias. And I could not recommend it. It's that kind of game. That's why I referenced that. It's from the developers of the original Amnesia. And if you're at all interested in, thinking about human existence, like Enemy Zero on the Sega Saturn. Soma's really, really good for that. Also with jump scares and hiding from unbeatable enemies and things like that.
Soma and the Amnesias launched on Game Pass this week.
Yes, that's true. Soma is on Game Pass. Highly recommended. And of course, also added to Game Pass in the Game Pass advertising hour, we should get affiliate links from Xbox as well, just while we're making a list, is Costume Quest, which is obviously a Halloween game. You get into the costumes and you go around and trick or treat.
It's a fun game. Those are fun games. Soma is one I began on the PlayStation when it came out for console. I bought it, played it for a few hours, and left it for whatever reason. I re-downloaded it because of Game Pass. I need to get back to it. I've heard amazing things about it.
You can knock it out in a sitting, give or take, if you try. It's longer than that, but if you get into it, it is thorough in its examination of the questions it posits.
6 to 8 hours, something like that.
Something like that.
Okay.
Something like I lean on the higher end, but I'm a looker, right? So I'm looking around the scenes and seeing if I can read the computer screens and whatnot.
Me too. Okay. Yeah. So 12 hours. All right. Cool. Yeah, I didn't have that on here, but that is definitely one that I want to get back to. The other one I know I've talked about more recently is a newer release. I think it came out last year. It is one of the scary. I didn't finish it yet. It's one of the scariest games I've ever played, and I've played a lot of horror games. Is Visage. So it is. It's up there. It kind of definitely takes inspirations from PT.
I was gonna say it's the PT game, right? That's what I have it as in my head.
Yeah, so if you can play PT, I still have it on my PS4 over there. PT is a great one as well, even though it's short. But Visage is more of a fully realized game. It's creepy as hell. But if you like horror games, check that one out for sure. It's a good one.
I like that. It's a good choice. And I think Gecko Gamer in the chat has a wonderful comment on Soma. The developers of Soma added this after the fact when they were analyzing, as I understand it, like the stats for how many people were getting to the end, and they had made the game like a little bit trickier or more difficult than they thought, and people were reacting to the jump scares and whatnot. You can actually basically change the monsters into set dressing and go and experience the story of Soma. I will say that because Soma's horror, for the most part, lives in its plot and not in its creepy static monsters, that's an acceptable alternative, I think, for that kind of game. It'll be a little bit more like a really scary short story. But if that's what you need to get to the end, if you get to a place where it's like, this is just a too tough hallway, I hit the button because you won't regret it.
Fair enough. That's pretty cool. I like that. I often wonder, this is a little side note, but I often wonder, like, if you're a developer and you put all your passion and time into a game for years, right? Especially if you're smaller dev, right? And you have more control over the final product, if you will, your vision. And a game like Soma, you release it, and then you see the stats and you see, like, let's say 10% of people that played it finished it, right? It's got to be kind of discouraging, right? It's like, oh man, you're not experiencing, what I had for the vision for this game. So
I always feel bad for game developers in that, especially with like trophy stats. We've got the trophy for Saw credits, right? And it's at 22%, maybe. That's pretty good. It's pretty good for what we can see. But it's like, especially for games that backload stuff, I think of like Horizon Zero Dawn, which to me is like boring for 80% of its runtime. And then it hits you with every bit of plot that they thought about.
It does.
At the end of that game. And it's like, you go and you look at that trophy and the developers is like, I mean, nobody even has any idea what happened to this planet, right? Like it's you just didn't get there. And I agree with you entirely, Ains, that's got to be annoying.
Yeah.
You almost wish you just don't put a credits trophy. I don't want to know.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a larger conversation there that ties to game design and how you engage players, right? And build, movies have obviously a very kind of standardized way in which they approach the kind of up and down through the movie, right? You have to imagine game design is a lot more tricky because of length and time and what the player can choose to do. They have, their ability to go and do other things you don't expect them to do. But I have to imagine that's a big conversation among devs, is how do we keep players engaged and,
I think it drives them too much, honestly. I mean, I think you see changes in development for that. And to me, it's like, I can't communicate this enough. And I do this with Travis, right? I can't review games for IGN or whatever because I don't always get to the end, because my value proposition is, did you deliver 12 or more hours for my 60 or 70 bucks of time that I really enjoyed myself? And if that's the case, yeah, if your kind of drive to get to the end falls off because of what you've done in the middle of the game, that doesn't necessarily ruin the game for me. And it also doesn't necessarily make it so that I don't like what you did. I will never ever see the end of basically any modern Assassin's Creed. Okay, I never will. It's still one of my favorite series. Like I enjoy it moment to moment. Yeah, Soma is one that I could really get behind the developers getting upset about because it's a puzzle lock of a concept, right? And like you're as you're getting on, you understand more and more and more of what they're even trying to say to you. And so if you don't get past certain points in Soma, it is like, did they even play the game? So I get that, but like for something like Assassin's Creed, some of the bigger games, yeah, I played you, I enjoyed you. I don't need to see me ultimately putting a sword through some king. I don't know, however it ends. But yeah, I think Soma, those narrative games, there's so much good stuff. If you just want to be kind of macabre, Edith Finch kind of has this death pall over it in its entirety. I will tell you, the games I downloaded at the top of October are like Medieval for the PlayStation, which has that haunted vibe, Luigi's Mansion 3, Alien Isolation, Death Stranding, which also has kind of a somber look, even though it doesn't end in a Halloween fashion. What else? What else is sitting at me, staring at me for things that I was playing for Halloween? There's one called Pumpkin Jack. Just generally, you can go in different directions, whether you're going for horror or pumpkins.
What about Resident Evil Village, I believe you said?
Resident Evil Village. You see, the problem with Resident Evil Village is I demand a certain amount of verisimilitude in my horror, and if you're going to just present it as a kind of theme park action adventure, it doesn't work for me. I also saw that Rose Winters campaign, I think they said was like an hour and a half. I was like, oh, you guys got me so excited about it.
Our reviewer, our reviews and drafts right now, it's going up tomorrow of it. It is, he finished it in 3 hours. Okay.
3 is at least a little bit less bad.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like a 5,
I thought it was going to be bigger too. Yeah. Funny enough, I was going to touch on some comments here. So yeah, feel free to throw in your horror games that you love or recommend. Joe Munger said Alien Isolation, which you just touched on. Nick said Death Stranding, which because you can very scary to lose packages.
Well, it has that your Death Stranding is good for, again, it depends on what you're looking for from your Halloween, but it's interacting with the notions of mortality and an end of existence in a way that at least is like that's kind of the brain space I want to be in October.
Sure, it doesn't have to be horror, right? Like it doesn't have to be gore.
And, no, I'll tell you, Death Stranding is hopeful. Like at its core, like if you get to it's a hopeful game, but it's like, let's talk about death. Let's talk about the afterlife. Let's talk about God. Like Death Stranding is interested in these things.
Gotcha. Rob Frawley says, how about Prey 2017? Not horror, but I think it works. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to preach about Prey anytime I can.
That's as close as you're going to get me to any of this crap.
All right, but you want to talk
Halloween? About Halloween is the worst holiday. I'm just going to come on the record and say that we have out here, and I'm including the 4th of July, which I also can't stand. So if it's not Thanksgiving where there's food and Christmas where there's presents, I really don't care about holidays. But Halloween, it's just I don't understand it. I'm fine with people having their, we got to set up our decorations.
It's fun to have ghouls and ghosties. It's an enjoyable
I dressed
thing.
up as a piece of peanut butter toast yesterday, and my wife had jelly. Yeah, that was our costume. All right, that's as much. That's the effort I'm going to go. All right, for this thing, and I only do it for her because I really can't stand it. Aside from the candy,
you just wear a t-shirt and no pants, and you call yourself a streamer. You're done.
It's the worst.
Dan, I love your bad takes. But this is one step too far, my friend. We can't install Halloween around here.
Where's the gravy? Where's the stuffing? That's all I'm saying. Halloween lacks all these things.
It's coming. Can't you at least enjoy Halloween?
At least
it's marker of time that Thanksgiving is next.
You should just have 2 Thanksgivings.
And what? No, because what Halloween represents, right? Like, think about what Thanksgiving represents and what actually happened. Why we have Thanksgiving.
Listen,
don't care about that. That's bad history. Like Halloween's at least fun.
Is it though? I mean, I don't even know what it is. So actually, I do, but I don't want to get into it. I like the turkey part.
Okay,
that's what I focus.
We're gonna
on.
get
then make a turkey for Halloween.
We're gonna get.
That's
to the
what
turkey
I'm thinking
part
of doing next year. It's the best way to do it. Except then everybody will come and eat my turkey, and then that's the problem. I provide too many turkeys.
And I think you might be taking it too literally, right? Like, I'm not trick-or-treating. I'm not dressing up in costumes. I like October and Halloween as a season for, engaging with this kind of stuff. I think it's fun.
Oh, by the way, you guys will get a laugh out of this. So we our entire family dressing up. We're going as the Addams family. I have to be Gomez because my wife is being Morticia. So for the first time in several years, I'm going to fully shave tomorrow, except my mustache, which I've never had a mustache in my entire life. So this is going to be quite interesting, and I'm going to
All right, we expect
paint my
picture
head black here. Pictures will probably be in DMs. It'll be hard to find those online, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know. We won't share them. We won't share them. Well, I'm sorry to hear it, Dan, but I will say this: as someone that doesn't like horror as a genre, like your take makes sense to me.
Sure.
But if you do, you can see how theming it around a month is fun.
I understand the gist of it. I get why people enjoy it. Not my cup of tea. I don't really obviously I don't play horror games. I haven't really played them since like Dead Space, so that was probably one of the few, actually I played a little bit. Like I played Blair Witch. I lasted about 20 minutes. I was just like, nah.
Ains and I are in agreement today. Don't get us on Bloober team.
Funny enough, some people agreeing with Dan, some people not. We've got a lot of other games mentioned, though. I'll hit some of these. Google Man says QWOP. I don't know how many people know what QWOP is in this chat, Google Man, but that's quite funny. QWOP is a ridiculous. Just look it up. I'm not even going to try and explain QWOP. Just QWOP. You can look it up.
I like that somebody has a reference to Eternal Darkness, which is one of my favorite scary games ever. But
great call out.
It's very unapproachable now in terms of accessing it on anything that isn't an emulator somewhere.
Correct. Very true, and very expensive if you want to try and get it on GameCube. That's your point.
Wait,
BioShock.
I have a valuable asset. You guys need to tell me what I have. I have a copy of Eternal Darkness. What's it worth?
Oh, Eternal Darkness on GameCube. It's a few hundred. Yeah.
All right. If everything goes to the real pot, I'm ready. I got games that I can open a score.
Right. Think of how much Snap cards you could buy.
Yeah.
So many, Dan.
So many.
I don't think you can buy cards directly in Snap. Maybe.
So BioShock's a good one. Trying to see. Oh, Little Nightmares. Absolutely. Little Nightmares 1 and 2. Great games. Sure. Definitely. If you haven't checked those out, I'm trying to go through all the chats here.
That kind of 2D real threatening game. Yeah. Like you go like Heart of Darkness. Anybody remember Heart of Darkness? No? These are topical and timely references from me.
Yeah, Heart of
Enemy
Darkness.
Zero and Heart of Darkness.
So many people talk. They're trending on Twitter right now.
They are. That's the power I have.
What about Limbo and Inside? If you like those?
Yeah, I think this is the contrarian in me. I think they are fine, and like the mass raves that it got, I'm like,
yeah, I'm kind of with you there.
Yeah, I didn't think Inside was a 10. No. But it was.
No.
I liked it. Also, I was going to recommend two of my favorite horror games of all time are Dead Space 1 and Silent Hill 2. They're both getting remakes. So if you haven't played those, you may be better off waiting. But Dead Space 1 and 2.
Developers Motive and Bloober Team. Godspeed, everyone.
Don't you start. Dead Space 1 and 2 are legendary, though. I mean, those are just great games.
I see the DBD reference. Yes, DBD was my first download of October. DBD is awesome.
Dead by Daylight, yeah. I mean, talk about a game that has, I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I always look at the most played games on the platforms and stuff. Dead by Daylight is always in the top 20 on Xbox.
It's going to be there forever because they have a very nice cadence, which is like a couple new survivors and a new killer, which is essentially a new game. I mean, it's not. It's a little hyperbolic because it's always hide and seek. But the killers have so many different mechanics that it is like learning a new game. You do it for whatever, $6-7, and you can play Dead by Daylight until the cows come home.
Fair enough. Pampa says The Suffering. I remember that game. A very bloody game, if I remember correctly, right?
Is that Midway?
Might be. Yeah, I'd have to look it up. But wow. Let's get a couple super chats in here. Got Pampa in the house.
Speaking of Pampa, $10 super chat. PT and Visage are not games, but experiences.
Sure.
Grounded and Night is terrifying.
Grounded is way scarier than it should
at
be.
Night.
Grounded is scary.
I got you. Yeah. But the scariest thing is Halo Infinite on rank and seeing teammates with a standard Spartan color.
This is an inside joke. This is
no idea what that means.
If they have the standard Spartan color, that means they haven't played much. Is that?
Not necessarily. So you have full customization in Halo Infinite, and the ongoing joke with us is if you don't take pride in your appearance as a Spartan, you're probably not going to play very well. So when you first load in,
pride. I feel like I was at this meeting at Big Law at some point, which is like, Rick, why aren't you wearing a tie? Come on now.
So when you load into Halo Infinite ranked, it's 4v4, right? Like Halo ranked. And each person gets their intro. And when you see someone who has like the very starter bland, just gray Spartan, you start to panic because you're like, oh God, either they're new or they don't care enough to actually customize anything. And it's very rare that player is going to be really good. Most
Could
of
it
the
just
time,
be they're
bad.
so focused on honing their skill set they don't even care about all this? No, all right.
No.
That would be a good tactic, though. I mean, just to jump in and be like, "Oh, don't worry about that guy. He's a noob."
For a
Yeah.
few people, yeah, that serves to be true. There's been some really amazing ones, but most of the time it kind of scares you because you're like, oh God, I'm in trouble. And in Halo, like if all 4 players are not good and engaged in Halo ranked, you're screwed. Like one player down, you're gonna lose. Period. It's a team game.
I can't take this kind of pressure on my performance, so this is why I don't engage.
Fair enough. Thank you, Pampa.
And Darth Mac with the $2 super chat. Whoa, Dan, don't diss my birthday. Which one was
Halloween
it?
birthday.
Was it Halloween or July 4th?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I apologize not to diss your birthday because that makes it a wonderful day. Everything else sucks. So
having your birthday on Halloween would be awesome. I would.
My son's is actually the day after, which is perfect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Thank you, Darth Mac. Appreciate it. All right, gents. I think we're good there. I don't think I missed anything. I'm sure there's other horror games we could talk. I mean, like Hogue said, there's millions we could talk about. The one thing I did want to mention here, Callisto Protocol, obviously coming December 2nd. I don't know if you guys saw this week, but it did not pass the I think it's Zero or is it Zero?
In Japan, right?
Rating in Japan, which is like our ESRB, which basically means they had to come out and make a statement saying they're not going to change their game, so it's not releasing in Japan.
Yeah, they won't censor their game, and so you don't get it in Japan. Now, that's not the biggest market to offend on this stuff, but it is interesting because most people would just, what do you want? What do you need change? The blood needs to be blue. What do you need? And Callisto Protocol is just like, nope, forget it.
Yeah. Which is, I did see some people from Japan tweeting saying that, like, basically what this means, I may get this wrong, so please feel free to correct me, but basically what it means is they can't officially sell it like in stores, right? So it can't be printed and sold, but there still be ways to digitally download it.
Sure.
You know, you can find workarounds, right, to still play it if you're in
There's
Japan.
never not a way. That's how black markets work.
Sure.
On prohibition. But yes, it's a very interesting choice to make from a commercial entity. And I do wonder if it isn't somewhat guided by the fact that it is a new studio. It's still very founder led. It is not as commercially focused necessarily as what we see from the bigger houses.
Maybe because think about a lot of things that come out of Japan. First of all,
that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, have you seen some of the anime?
It's a sex and violence thing.
A what?
Japan allows more nudity, and the West allows more violence.
Okay. Can we merge those together like peanut butter and jelly?
Right? It sounds like a good Halloween costume. It's all of these various locations all have their own regulatory bodies from a legal perspective, and you're often seeing kind of minor changes made depending on exactly how hyperbolic you want. And Dan can probably go find a YouTube video to heckle on this. Yes. Whether or not that censorship depends on your point of view on these things, but generally speaking, Japan asks for something, you're going to be like, well, what do you need from us? Rather than just no. So it might be that Japan asked for something that was like, basically the whole concept of this isn't going to work or like it was just impossible. But it's unlikely. So it's an interesting choice. To me, from a kind of PR perspective, I almost like it as marketing. I almost like it's that kind of, see the movie they don't want you to see type of thing. Banned in Japan, I could see on the box.
Yep.
That kind of stuff. So
we see that with Australia too, because Australia is typically a little more strict there. So we see games that are banned in Australia, which are, you do see that. I think to your point, I really do. I mean, they had to give a statement, I would think, for their audience, but to your point, I think they weren't shy about making that statement. Like, hey, we're staying with our creative vision.
Yes.
Yeah, it's too violent. And we hope everyone else enjoys it even more than you would have before.
This is the game we wanted to make. And if some regulators in Japan don't want you to see it, well, that's on them.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, okay. All right, cool.
Now, to your point, the more realistic conversation behind the scenes could be, well, it depends what they wanted changed, right? And let's
Yeah,
not
of course.
forget, to your point, Striking Distance is a new studio. This is their first game. I mean, they're talented, experienced people, but they don't have the clout that, maybe some other bigger developer does. They may not even have the time or resources to put towards whatever needed to be changed. So I don't blame them in that sense.
Yeah, and we'll see how it goes. I say Japan's a smaller kind of jurisdiction. Obviously, they're still one of the major ones, but it's like, yeah, if you could still have pipelines that get it in there, and maybe your sales don't suffer, and you're really worried about launching anyway, you just make it a marketing statement, and then if you need to come back in a year and figure it out, you figure it out then. I honestly, the fact that they're gold and they're aimed at this December date, and it looks like they're going to hit it, I'm impressed by. I mean, I don't know whether Callisto Protocol will be any good, but certainly it looks good in the way that they've presented it, and they're hitting the timelines as they first announced them. So there's stuff going on that's going well in terms of that pipeline that they have working. So why mess it up with Japan and needing some kind of modifications if you're right on the edge?
You agree. Yeah, and that's before you even get the distribution and production of different discs, right? If you're sending discs out, and there's all kinds of things that go into the logistics on that, which are messy. But anyway, still my most anticipated game of the year. I'm highly pumped for it. I feel like
post Elden Ring.
Highly anticipated.
Yes.
I don't think nothing's beating.
You were pretty anticipatory of Elden Ring in like January. I'm just, we gotta make these statements true.
That is very true. And I think that it's rare that for any of us, right? No matter what you enjoy, it's rare that you anticipate something so strongly and it still manages to completely surpass expectations. Yep. So that was a cool feeling for that game because that doesn't happen often. We were talking about Limbo and Inside.
Yeah.
And we got this week the release date for Somerville. So this is launching November 15th for Xbox and Xbox consoles and PC. It will be on Game Pass. Somerville, if you're not familiar, is the first game from the new indie studio Jumpship, which was founded by the co-founder of I Was Doing Well, and now I forget the name of the old studio.
I don't remember it either.
Oh, God,
the Inside and Limbo.
Playdead. The co-founder of Playdead that did Inside and Limbo. So Dino Patti and the other co-founder, from what we understand, had a falling out. It happened after Inside released. Dino Patti left. He created Jumpship, which I have to think there's something in that name, which is kind of hilarious to me.
Jumpship.
But this is a game that I think, like, the teaser premiered, I want to say a good 4 years ago, maybe something.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time. But they came out this week and said, hey, we're releasing November 15th, which is, as we talk, a little over 2 weeks away. So we'll see what this is like. Obviously, if you watch the teaser, it looks to have the same type of kind of 2D weirdness vibe to it that your Inside, your Limbos, those types of games do. I hope it's good. I guess we'll see.
Get your human blob monster statues ready, folks.
Man, that was so strange at the end of Inside. But funny. So, interesting. I guess we'll see. And then, of course, don't forget that Playdead is also working on their next game. I forget the name of that off the top of my head now, too. But we'll probably hear more about that early next year. So we'll see.
Well, hopefully they'll make an HBO show about it at some point. And they'll be able to say from the acclaimed video game director, Neil Druckmann, whatever.
Oh, man. I feel like Druckmann, this is a complete side, but it feels like I say this about Kojima a lot. It's like he wants to be a movie director. Just let him direct a movie, please. So that we can stop with this.
It's so funny because the only reason I referenced that is I was watching whatever House of the Dragon and it put up the Last of Us ad. And I guess it just slipped past me when I watched it the first time. But the full card of it's something even worse than that. It's like from the visionary mind of acclaimed video game director Neil Druckmann or whatever. It's like, cool, bro.
Yeah.
Just stroke that ego, baby.
That's all it is. Yeah.
No. It's so funny to me because this is subjective, right? But it's like Naughty Dog was so much better when at minimum you had a partner. So I don't know what to tell you.
Used to be a lot more creativity in that realm. Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation we've touched on many times over, so I won't dive into it. But anyway, Somerville, 2 weeks. So yet another game in November. November 15th is we've got Halo November 8th, Ragnarok November 9th, Warzone November 16th, now Somerville November 15th. And like I said, there's other games in there. I know a big one that people are looking for is it Evil West, I believe.
When
not
is
Evil-
Scarlet and
we-
Violet?
Yeah, Evil West. Scarlet, yep, that's this month too. I want to say in 2 weeks or so, right in the middle of it.
Hogue House is very excited about Scarlet and Violet, Scarlet particularly. So it's a fun month.
Yeah, and Pentiment as well, Jupiter. I'm actually reviewing Pentiment, so stay tuned for that.
The Game Pass, I don't know if it's always done this. They do updates all the time, but the Game Pass screen now has like upcomings that it puts like directly in your library, your library slots. So it's got like Pentiment sitting there.
It does.
It's got Life is Good sitting there on the Game Pass. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And I do like that they're allowing pre-installs for a lot of things nowadays too. So you're ready
I will play Pentiment. I've been assured that I will like Pentiment, so we'll see how it goes.
I'm just hoping God of War is like 200 hours long. So
for Dan, I'm sure it'll be 200 hours for you.
Yeah. All my eggs are in that basket.
Yeah, this is Dan's game until
for the rest of the year, basically, until January 26th with the release of Hitman.
Did you guys see this morning that we've got retail sales out? We have full non-disclosure agreement, non-violating leaks happening online for God of War Ragnarok.
Yep.
I have no idea what that means.
It means that people that are not under contract have access to the game now.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The social medias are popping.
Yeah, mute your Ragnarok.
As I said earlier, I have no idea what you could actually leak about this series going on the first one, but we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see. Dan, by the way, Rob Frawley said earlier he has more time in Horizon Forbidden West than you do, and I said, how can that be? Dan has over 300 hours from what he said, and he said he does. He's played it 4 times, I think he said.
Good for him,
Mark.
Yeah, stand together.
Remarkable. Hey, go get that value out of your games, folks.
That's what I do.
I also wanted to touch on CD Projekt Red came out this week, which I found weird, but I'll explain why. So they came out a couple of weeks ago, and they gave us this huge roadmap, which was cool. I thought that was neat. Give us this huge roadmap of what you're working on. They revealed this week that the Canis Majoris code name they had is actually going to be a remake of The Witcher 1. Which very few people have played. The Witcher 1 did not sell very well. It wasn't highly critically acclaimed. It's very old now. But they're doing a full remake. Like they're building this from what they say, the usual term of from the ground up. In Unreal 5, the Polish studio Fool's Theory is building this. Fool's Theory was typically a support studio. But they're building this in coordination with some of the studio staff at CD Projekt Red, of course. They also said it's going to be a ways out yet, which I think takes me to my point of why this is weird. They're announcing that this is starting development, right? So you're talking about years before this comes out, probably. Why didn't they just say this was The Witcher 1 2 weeks ago when they announced its code name? It's not like you've made any progress in 2 weeks. Why did you wait? Like, why didn't they just say, here's our roadmap? We're working on a Witcher 1 remake with Fool's Theory right now. Why would you give it a code name and then 2 weeks later tell us what the code name is?
You said it's with an outside developer?
Fool's Theory, yes.
Contract might not have been done.
Fair. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
There you go.
So maybe that's it. But that just seems strange to me. But anyway, we're getting The Witcher 1. The Witcher 1 is the only of the Witcher games I have not played, primarily for the reasons I listed. It's very old, dated, etc.
I want to object to this characterization of what you listed, right? Because I remembered Witcher being highly acclaimed when it came out. And you've got GamePro 90, PC Gamer 90. Witcher's fantastic, an amazing achievement. Like The Witcher 1 was a big deal when it came out. And I suspect that the remake is no longer going to have collectible cards that you earn for your sex partners. Chances are that's going to be changed in the new version. But like that, it was a big deal. And it's dated in terms of its action. I'm not going to fight you on that, Ains. Definitely. I almost said Ty Gaines. See, this is the problem.
Ty Gaines.
When I'm referring to your cards. But I will object to, in the time when it was released, Witcher was a popular release. Did it sell? I have no idea. But as for critics, that's why I bought it. It was well received by a lot of outlets.
Now I could do the Travis thing where like I dig my heels in and argue with you no matter what.
That's what you're supposed
I'm
to do.
That's what I'm supposed to do, but I just don't enjoy doing that. So I will. I quickly looked up, and you're absolutely right. I was certainly wrong about this. That it was a highly reviewed game. I don't know why I had in my head that it wasn't. So I apologize. But yeah, it looks like it was well received. Came out in 2007. So
The time
yeah.
is before the MCU.
So we'll see. You know, the best part of looking this up quickly on Google, literally the two top stories, if you look this up. Metro, The Witcher is a terrible game and a remake makes no sense. Right next to it, The Witcher remake makes perfect sense, unlike some other games.
I think it does make sense because of its dated qualities. If people are responding to it, and I see in the chat, why no sexy cars? So here's the deal, right, folks? Let's real talk here. The Witcher is a very specific character who very specifically is crafted to not have any of the negatives involved in sexual activity. And so he rolls around like James Bond, and Witcher 1 leaned into that a lot. And so one of the things they might do 15 years later is back off that a little bit. I don't want it. I suspect they will have to. So we will see. Literally, it was collectible cards. One of the controversies around Witcher 1 was you collect collectible cards. That was a collection screen, like video gamers are used to collecting, as long as you betted everyone that you could.
Wow. I didn't know that, actually, because I haven't played it. So.
Yes. You can go look up those controversies. But I suspect that I would suspect that they would change that. Would be my guess.
Fair enough. So we'll see. They even say in their press release on this that it's early. So like I said, it's going to be a while before we really probably see something out of this. But I'm excited for it. Love Witcher, obviously. And if I can play kind of the origination story, I don't know where Witcher 1 as a game ties in with the Witcher books. Because obviously, Witcher 3 is later in that.
It's the series stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know where that all ties together. I'll have to look that up when the time is right. But yeah, I'm interested to see what comes here. So, do we want
choice for a remake?
Do we want to talk about the fact that Henry Cavill is no longer Geralt because he's going back to be Superman? And I assume there's some contract stuff to work out there, and they are bringing, after season 3, which is releasing next year and already filmed, they're bringing in Liam Hemsworth. Nothing against Liam, but they're bringing in Liam Hemsworth.
I got things.
Yeah, he's terrible.
I got things against Liam. He's god awful.
Yeah.
I try to be nice.
No.
See what happens.
Don't.
No. Liam Hemsworth is a charisma black hole.
That's nice.
I'm very glad that he's been able to make his fortune in Hollywood. More power to you. Handsome Australian men do well, but he is god awful.
Yeah, not great.
Yes, there's a lot to talk about. I think honestly, for Hangouts and Headlines tomorrow to pitch, I'm almost certainly going to talk about it as well as Disney taking over Doctor Who's production. I think there's a lot of question marks around this because people want to say, "Oh, he signed up for Superman." It's like, folks, it does not take a year to make a movie, right? So it's like there's a lot going on behind the scenes here, whether it's contract rights, what he's allowed to do, what he's not. The whispers that he's been unhappy with the direction and production of the Witcher TV show.
Yeah, it's.
I will tell you, I'm unhappy with it. And if I were actually trying to say I'm a big fan of The Witcher and this is what they're making me do on this TV show, depending on especially on what's in season 3, he knows more than us. Don't forget that I don't love any of this. He's a good Geralt. He knows he's a good Geralt. He loves the series, and he was clearly frustrated on a kind of Luke Skywalker and Ryan Johnson type of level. So I think he walked away. And then you want to take another piece from it from the lawyer's view. If they can announce the replacement the same time they're announcing the departure, this has been in the works for a while.
Yes.
This has been known for a while, as has his return to DC, right? So you got to kind of put your brain in backwards. So like he doesn't just randomly appear in Black Adam. Like all of these things are happening a while ago, and we get to know about them now. Yeah. And I think there's every reason to be concerned about The Witcher as a Netflix TV show. But I think there's been every reason to be concerned since the first episode, and some people disagree with me on that.
Well, I mean, he was admittedly petitioning for this role. Like he wanted to play Geralt, and he loves that source material from everything we've seen him say anyway. And I think all of us agree. You know, I anecdotally, right? I don't see anyone saying, "Wow, he's a terrible Geralt." No, I think we all loved him as Geralt. Whether or not you really enjoyed the show or not, and I it's kind of weird because I adore Witcher, and I think they made
He's the highlight. He's the highlight.
100%. Yeah, and I think they made improvements with season 2. Season 1, you could tell was a little campy and a little, you know, I had my issues with it. We don't have to get into that, but I just don't. You're taking a series which very clearly revolves around an actor, right, as the main character. And you're gonna I don't know if it's halfway through. I don't know how many seasons they have planned.
They wanted 7. I can pretty much promise you they're not getting 7.
Yeah, it's like it just seems crazy to me. Like, how are you going to move forward with a guy who is not Henry Cavill? And Henry himself is so, as an actor, he just seems so likable. You know what I mean? Like, people like Henry Cavill and they kind of relate to him and one has seen him in that role. I don't know how you move forward without him.
He seems like a legitimate nerd that's serious about his craft, that is one of the most handsome people on earth and can play both Superman and Geralt. I don't know that there's anything not to like. Liam Hemsworth has no talent to speak of other than his last name. And so that level of replacement is going to hurt. He's a different kind of person. You didn't even find somebody with the level of gravitas that Henry Cavill can bring to the part. You brought a guy that maxed out in part 2 of freaking Mockingjay. So, I mean, like, there's nowhere to go with this replacement.
Yeah.
That's bad. That's bad news for everybody. The worst thing for me is that, you know, Cavill made Geralt, you know, he's an interesting character already. I mean, you're going from, you know, arguably one of the deepest, you know, characters in I don't know, medieval sci-fi, whatever, to Superman, who is the most boring character in any kind of Marvel, DC, whatever universe. It's just boring. He's your, I'm the good guy that's invincible except for kryptonite, which all of a sudden shows up everywhere. You know, it's the worst. You know, he could have done so much more with the Geralt role going forward past season 4. And you're right, I agree with you guys. Season 1, all over the place. Season 2, much better. Not by his fault. You know that it's not. You know,
right.
There must have been so much going on behind the scenes where he's just like, yeah, I got to go.
And he knows what season 3 is. He knows what season 3 is.
Yeah, it's bad news. Liam Hemsworth is trash. We don't have to mince words here. It's not good. Either of his brothers aren't that great either. So, I mean, you know, it's not like, you know, old Thor is like, you know, knocking down like these acting walls that have, you know, he's a pretty looking dude.
Chris Hemsworth has comedic timing and charisma that his brother unfortunately didn't receive.
Yeah. Either one of them. Yeah. I guess magic can hurt Superman. That's my bad. You know,
they were ready with a replacement name, which means a contract is signed up, which means that they've been working on this for a while. And yeah, I think I might respect the Halo TV series more than Witcher.
No. Don't start talking crazy now.
I don't like Witcher. I think season 2 was just as bad as season 1. I'm not with you there.
Oh no.
Oh man, all of this is painful for me. You realize you're talking about 2 of my favorite IPs.
I mean,
it's all terrible.
Yeah, it's all bad. Yeah.
Go watch Andor, folks.
I still haven't watched it.
It'll put you right.
I still haven't watched it. I will.
I've caught up on it. It is very, very good. Surprisingly good, because I was about to fall asleep in the first 3 episodes.
Surprisingly good.
This is the most boring thing I've ever seen in my life. And then all of a sudden, like episode 4 and 5, I'm like, whoa, this is.
They're movies. They're 3-episode movies. I promise you. 1 through 3, 4 through 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
Andor.
That's accurate.
Okay, I'll move over to Andor to hide my pain from this. Well, we'll see what season 3 brings, and then we will for sure see what season 4 brings with Witcher.
Can we do a hate watch segment as Liam stumbles through the scenes, mumbling to himself, trying to look handsome in a gray wig?
He's not brooding, you know. I mean, the guy doesn't brood. I don't even know if that's.
No, he's a CW level actor. I don't know what to tell you.
Yes, he would.
Yeah, and Geralt. To your point, Geralt's supposed to be brooding, and he's supposed to be intimidating, right? Like he's supposed to be big and threatening, and
it's supposed to be effortless. The amount of effort he's going to have to bring to this role is unbelievable.
Yeah, and Geralt in general is supposed to be over. Here's what I don't understand, right? And this is the other thing that goes with Netflix is a business, right? Netflix cancels everything you love. Okay, folks? It cancels everything you love while it's still good. And then this one's like, well, we kind of lost Geralt of Rivia, but we're going to roll with it.
Yep.
Garrett says, Hogue is like, have you heard about our savior Andor?
Ask me about Loom. Ask me about Loom. No, honestly, folks, look, I know I can come across as pessimistic because I think there's a lot of trash that is made out there, but I thoroughly enjoyed Andor. And I honestly, at the end of all things, I thoroughly enjoyed House of the Dragon. So there is stuff out there to go watch, but it ain't Witcher and it ain't Halo.
Definitely.
Aww. All right.
Like, I can't disagree.
The funny thing is, you guys remember when we were going through Halo and every week I would watch the new one, and I would kind of come in and I was being as optimistic as I could, and as you well know, I can defend Halo till the end of time. It still hurts. It still hurts.
It should hurt,
man.
I'm very sorry for you because that sucks.
So am I. I mean, it's rough.
Just read the books. The books are way better.
All right.
Honestly,
maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll read. You could tell me a book that I should read about Halo.
Oh God, there's a lot. There's way more than you would think. And there's new ones still coming out. But if you've never read the original Halo books, the Flood and the Fall of Reach in particular, amazing books.
Okay.
Yeah, and you will understand why Spartans are as threatening or as like superhero-esque as they're made out to be, because you didn't always get that in the games because it's a game. It has to have balance, right? But
you know what, I'll take that under advisement. I'm always looking for fun stuff. Maybe I'll read a Halo book,
and you can read through it quickly. They're not tough reads. I mean, it's Halo.
I like a good airport bookstore read.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You can just go up. That's all there is to it. You can only go up from here.
This is another one that was kind of random this week, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts and see if I was kind of on an island here or what. But Rocksteady, obviously the Arkham developers that got known, their name for that, and obviously making Suicide Squad kill the Justice League. The co-founders, both of them, announced this week that they are leaving the company at the end of the year, so next month and a half or so, that they are departing the company before the release of Suicide Squad. And kind of more interestingly, if you didn't know this, so it's Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker. Sefton was actually the game director on Suicide Squad. And they are both leaving to, quote, pursue a new adventure in gaming. In the kind of press release or their statement, they say the Suicide Squad's basically finished, and they're the team that's there and the new executives who are taking over the roles can get it across the finish line, no problem. Yeah. And they're looking forward to fans. The usual statement you would get is something like this.
Yeah.
But am I weird in thinking that this is just curious timing? Why
are they going together? We don't know what they're doing yet.
So they're both leaving at the same time, and they are pursuing a new adventure in gaming. So my read through the lines here, and feel free to tell me I'm weird or off on this, but one, I found it weird that you're leaving now, presumably 3-6 months before your game that you've been working on for 8 years releases, and two, you've already announced that you're going to do something else in gaming.
Can I ask you this?
Sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this. Rocksteady is owned by WB?
Good question. I don't know.
All right. Check me on that, because I will say that the business rumblings is that WB is going to go through, as an entity, is going to go through another strip down. That they look like they might be trying to make themselves viable in the next couple of years by a different media conglomerate. And if the signals, we're always trying to speculate. We can't see what they see.
Right.
But if Rocksteady is owned by WB, and I think
they are
okay,
they are. And so they're owned by Time Warner,
right. So, well, it's Warner Brothers Discovery. Yes, yeah. But they're in the WB conglomerate. However, that stockholder ownership percentages come out. You can probably see the writing on the wall, right? They're in a financial kind of cut down phase. They've finished their game. Did they say they're ending? They're going to leave by like end of year.
End of year.
Right. So like at that point, you're trying to maybe collect whatever your operational bonus is and get out. And then if you're going together, you're starting a new company.
Yes.
This is not unusual for companies that are going through major corporate acquisition transaction reverberations, right? So Warner Brothers just became Warner Brothers Discovery. You've got Zaslav at the top of that entity, cutting everything. CNN just announced 2 days ago that they're no longer going to license in any documentaries or original TV shows. They're just going to broadcast their stuff. Like every single thing in that enterprise is being cut down as much as possible while still hopefully maintaining some kind of value. WB Games is not going to get out of that entirely unless they spin off the whole enterprise. And so I think by the time you're getting emails from the new head about head counts and things like that, you're starting to say we have to think about jumping ship. Not naming our company Jump Ship, that's already been taken, but like, looking at things that way. So to me, that's kind of, it's speculation. We're not in those rooms, but it's like, okay, there's enough going on at WB and CNN and WB Games and everything else that it's like, I would expect it. You don't need to finish the project if your bonuses aren't going to be good enough for under your contract. And so you're just out.
Yeah. Yeah. And new game studio is, of course, what popped in my head first. Apparently, I have the statement here. Bear with me. Yeah, it was just, as you said, especially with the report earlier this week, what's going on over there sounds pretty wild. But yeah, they founded it in 2004. So it's, it's 18 years they've been around, whether you
2 decades of their lives. Yeah.
Yeah. And Nathan and Darius are taking over, some of the other executives there. So we'll see. They said Suicide Squad's in safe hands. I know we've talked about this before, but I'm extremely curious to see how Suicide Squad lands, because the expectations, especially given the Arkham history and the time of development, are sky high. And for all accounts and purposes, the game style is drastically different from the Arkham games, right?
I'm not interested in a co-op Arkham. This is just me. I'm just not.
Yeah. Right. So I'm just, it's gonna be interesting to see how this game lands and see what these guys do in the future. But there's some writing on the wall here that, to your point, is speculative for us right now, but stuff's happening for sure.
WB is going through a lot of stuff, regardless of whether that hits this or not. WB is going through a lot of stuff, which has actually impacted things like my clients that interact with some of those enterprises and things like that. So, I mean, like that's happening. Suicide Squad to me was always I'm just gonna be honest. It's a bad place to invest my intellectual property license money in my opinion. I don't think it's a brand seller. So we'll see how it goes.
Funny enough, I'm not a big comic game guy. This one did interest me. Just from the action and co-op standpoint, but assuming it plays well, of course. Dan, where were you on Suicide Squad in the last time we saw that kind of trailer? The 3 minutes or whatever they showed.
A shark. There's a boomerang. There's some.
If I could play it by myself, not have to actually play co-op where it makes a difference, a notable difference in difficulty or whatever, and I'll give it a shot. I enjoyed Rocksteady's previous Arkham stuff, so. Yeah, I'm in it for that. I honestly, I get them mixed up all the time between Rocksteady and whoever the hell put out Gotham Knights. Like when because they were
RBV Montreal.
Yeah, whatever. When they were both announced around the same time, so it was kind of like, and they were both 4-player co-op games. So it was just okay, yeah, right. So we thought, yeah, and then more 2-player co-op games. It is. So I was like keeping track of which one was which and who was doing each one. It's too much for my brain to handle. I can't do that kind of stuff. But they were both DC. They were both Batman based. Neither one of them with Batman probably. It's just like, all right, whatever. But I hope they land on their feet. Maybe they'll go over to, go jump in with Jade Raymond over at Haven Studios. This seems like a popular destination. So everybody knows what they're doing.
Nope, nobody does.
It's the biggest thing in the history of games.
We can hope for good things. We can hope.
We can hope.
These guys,
Rocksteady's made a bad game. They're probably they haven't made a game in a decade.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
I think the big problem, maybe similar to Gotham Knights, and Hogue, I know you can comment more on that than I can. But from the reviews I've read and our reviewer as well, is they said the biggest problem with expectations for Gotham Knights is that people expected another Arkham game.
It looks like Arkham.
Yeah, and I think that Dan's point is, Dan, you just said it. I really like the Arkham games, and I think people just have Rocksteady mentally attached to those Arkham games.
Yes.
And I don't think Suicide Squad is going to be similar to those Arkham games.
I don't think it's
So-
going to be probably either, but we can hope. We can hope.
Yeah, I mean, well, we will have to see exactly what it is. But my biggest problem with co-op, and I've said this before, especially with like examples like Assassin's Creed Unity, is when you make that as part of your design, you lose some of the intimacy and level design that I like.
Sure.
Because you have to have 4 people running through.
Yeah.
and so that's what I would be worried about, is even if it's a functional game, that it's like, well, there could be a King Shark and a Harley Quinn and a Boomerang Man and whoever running with you. So it's going to just be, reminders that it's a co-op game all the time.
That is not to take us on a different game, but that is one of my concerns with Redfall. Is that Arcane crafts single player narrative experiences, and everything I've read, and I followed every piece of info from Redfall, and I did a video on it, and everything says that this is a single player Arcane experience that can be played in co-op. But to your guys' point, as soon as you add co-op, you do have to add mechanics for that, and things, generally speaking, change in a game. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Well, that's all I had for today, fellas. Chat, you have been awesome as always. Thank you for hanging out with us. Travis should be back next week, assuming they let him back into the country. I hope they don't, just for shits and giggles. I'd like to see what happens. But
sure.
But anyway, this week we have over the next few weeks, actually, a lot of reviews on the site, a lot of articles, a lot of game talk, like we said, with all these releases coming. And we'll have a lot more in the next couple of weeks, especially I will. Like I said, I'm reviewing Pentiment. I'm reviewing Warzone 2. I'll obviously be talking a lot about Halo Winter Update. Jesus, I'm reviewing Callisto as well. I just said that all out loud, and it only occurred to me I've got to try and find some time somewhere. So a lot coming from us on the SG side, so pay attention for that. I'm also working on a video probably early this week for our season gaming patrons, which is going to be about Xbox Game Pass, part of the Game Pass kind of news and the Xbox or Microsoft fiscal results we got this week, but also about some of the things we've talked about in the past as well. So if you are a patron, look for that. That'll be up this week as well. So with that, oh my God, I forgot a super chat. Why? I'm sorry, guys. I get so tied up in the conversation. I apologize, Gecko. I've done that before to you. I feel really bad when I do it. I'm sorry.
The €2, Gecko Gamer Witcher 1 gets the bonk.
Gets the bonk.
Yeah.
So Gecko, thank you, and I apologize about that. Gecko is on our Discord as well, so we'll have to talk more about that, Gecko. I want to understand if you're just not interested in the remake, or if you really played Witcher 1 a lot and didn't like it, and if you did, why do you not? But interesting. So thank you again. Appreciate you. All right, Hogue, what's happening? How many?
Well, like I said, I think we're going to do Halloween in headlines tomorrow morning, and it'll probably be about Geralt of Rivia as well as Doctor Who becoming Disney-fied, and seeing what people think about that. A bit of a casual Monday because it's Halloween, and who doesn't love Halloween? Dan, don't you talk? And so we'll be doing that. We've been doing virtual legalities, lawyers and dragons. We'll also have question time probably tomorrow, which is our monthly supporter focused stream, but still allows community questions for people to ask me what they like. Those are always fun and not at all hurtful. So that'll be a fun episode to do. I think tomorrow we'll have fun with that. And yeah, you can't get rid of me. I think I'm streamed now 27 consecutive days, 26 consecutive days. And so, yeah, I like to work. So I will be doing stuff on Virtual Legality. I'll be doing stuff in Hangouts and Headlines. Come join us over there. It's a lot of fun.
There you go. All right, gents, we will be back next week with the fourth one. And until then, as always, thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our content, of course, we didn't promote it during, but please give us a like. Please give us that sub. Check us out. And as we say, stay tuned to Hogue's channel and Season Gaming's channel. There's always good stuff to be found. Other than that, we will see you next Sunday. Hope you have a nice Halloween. Best holiday every year, bar none.
One of them. Yeah.
Peace.